Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair ragale, ni hao, chunashumme, washmale, ohio gonzaimas, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyat, hale shama chatore, ahlan wasalan maraba, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PT World and Watching World this morning alongside the very amazing Maha Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. Hello Maha, how are you today?
Hello Shazad, assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm very good today. I mean, I'm better than yesterday because I got food poisoning, but I was like, I need to make it on the show today because it's important, and also I was missing the show as well.
Thank God that you showed
okay.
up, and even, for me, I had some other commitments, but I was like, okay, so in the
Yeah, like
morning,
sleep.
earlier in the morning, I actually texted her whether you're coming or not, because I kind of had a plan to not to show up.
And luckily, I did not reply to him in time, so he had to be here. But no, it's always good when we're doing the show together because there's an energy, and also sometimes topics also need more than one kind of questioning and one line of thought.
Exactly, and this is where we both come in, I guess,
Yes.
so you probably take the path which is more serious, but will definitely reach the destiny or whatever you think. Yeah, obviously. But let it be, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Let us get started with the top stories first of all. Very sorry for the fumbling early in the morning, but it's perfectly all right. Good morning. Opening ceremony of Peace Horn Military Music Festival of the SCO member states held in China. The Pakistani military band was the star performer of the event, which was watched by dignitaries from all 8 member states of the SCO. Wow.
Okay, and the Pakistan Tourism Development Corporation has said that annual tourist arrival in Pakistan has been boosted by 300% since the past few years, and with 1.75 million in 2017, as the security situation has significantly improved in the country.
Wow, that's a good news to start your day with.
Yeah.
You've been to all of these places. You should actually
them.
document all of these places.
Yeah, I didn't last time, but I will this time for sure.
And a bit of blips there, but it's perfectly all right. Moving on, where the 2018 Beijing International Automotive Exhibition kicked off with more than 1,000 models and dozens of concept cars presented to auto enthusiasts. A total of 105 car models are also being displayed for the first time at the show.
Okay.
Well, this is what it is for the news updates, ladies and gentlemen. But for the last one, I think it was very interesting.
Yeah, so I feel like we should share it. The only polar bear ever born in the tropics has died in Singapore of age-related ailments. So we should know that.
And it was the only polar bear who was actually born in the tropics.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, but this is how life is. The day you're born, you start dying.
Yes, that's a very bleak way to start the day, but no, it's absolutely true. But now we have a wonderful show lined up for you. As you know, we like to share about Pakistan's culture, about their heritage, and within Pakistan, before and when sitting abroad, you always think that nothing's being done, people don't care, there's not enough efforts being made, but actually that isn't correct. Within Pakistan, there's a lot of people working on preserving the cultural heritage of Pakistan, because culture and heritage, they reflect and shape the values and beliefs and aspirations, creating a national identity. And if we lose that, then then we're going to become confused and we're not going to have anything to share into our future generations.
Exactly, that's what it is, and this is why we've actually picked up on folk ballads, ladies and gentlemen. What is folk ballad? This is something which needs to be answered by our very apt guests who are over here. And we have been joined by somebody who's actually done a show for PTV World 2 as well. It's over, but thank God that the show is there. Now we can probably log on to the internet and watch all our folk ballads. That's what it is.
Absolutely, and it is
the shelf life's getting better.
Absolutely, because one thing I keep reading as well is that there's a lot of archive footage that is being ruined. People are not preserving it, and unless the previous generations are passing on those stories. We were with our boss the other day, and it's about noting it down. It's about making a record, because if the previous generations aren't sharing it, and then there's no archive of it as well, then it's going to be completely lost, and there's so much beauty in our history.
And it's not just the archive. For example, we are habitual of uploading our shows or, whatever we do on YouTube. For example, if one day it gets hacked, or if there's a problem, so we do not even have a backup. So it's not just the archive, we actually need to have a backup of that archive too as well. And only then we'll be able to save our culture and heritage.
Absolutely. So we've been joined by some wonderful guests in the studio. Some of our guests have traveled a long way to be with us today, but Shahzad is going to start with the first
All right,
introduction.
so ladies and gentlemen, on my right hand side, she's a cultural expert. She's the former executive director of Lok Virsa. She does not need any introduction. She's none other than Dr. Fawzia. Hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for
you.
being here. Besides Dr. Fawzia, we've been joined by Mohammed Wasim. He is the director of Interactive Resource Center, and he has come all the way from Lahore to be on our show today. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here
Thank
today.
you very much for joining us. And last but not the least, she's our colleague, which is, I certainly just got to know about her today, but she's none other than Miss Emin Fatima. She's the Deputy Director, Lok Virsa, and she's the host for the Folk Beats program on PT while it used to be here. Hello, how are you? Assalamu alaikum.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I
It's
was
a
very
pleasure.
excited about this program.
What took you so long in the makeup room?
The makeup
The makeup, the makeup,
makeup artist.
the makeup.
You know,
All right, so let's
girls gotta
get
be
started.
pretty.
First of all, ma'am, you've put in a lot of effort to get the culture and the heritage side of Pakistan to be together so that people can go and witness, where we belong and the history, and now where we are. And now talking about folk ballads, first of all, a lot of people do not even know what folk ballads are. I mean, in today's
do we?
age and time. So would you mind telling us what folk ballads are?
Sure. I think that is our past. Folk ballads are like stories that are sung.
All right.
So these are minstrels or these are musicians and singers who sing folk stories. And if I say Heer Ranja, Soni Maiwal, Mirza Saheba, everybody would know what they are.
Yeah.
And these are our folk ballads and a lot more. These are the known ones, but that is how nations store their history, their concepts, their value system, their perspective of the world, their gender roles, etc. But these are stories that we inherit from our earlier generations, and they carry on, and that is part of our cultural heritage.
Wonderful. So
Wow.
now we got that clarification. Now moving on, we're here today. So why are we here today? Why are we discussing the importance of preserving these folk ballads?
I think one very important thing, I will talk more about the heritage, and then this being a very significant part of the heritage. That civilized societies, continue to document their heritage and their past as they move forward. So the past doesn't stop you from moving forward, but you need to reflect that past in your future, because that is what retains our dignity.
Exactly.
That retains our identity. And as like cultural power to connect with each other, to retain what we have. And it is not going back. It is moving forward, but with dignity.
Exactly.
And so we need to really inculcate this love and this yearning in the younger generation to appreciate, to understand, to save, to document, and then to recreate our history and our cultural history. And folk ballads are really repositories of our folk heritage.
Exactly, and I just got a thought that the last time when you were here, you actually came up with a book
Yes.
where there are
Yes.
different culture sites from all over
Very
Pakistan. as
proud
well.
of that book.
Very
Yes,
nice,
absolutely.
alhamdulillah. But
Very
let's move on
important.
to Mohammed Wasim Saab. So
Yeah, I think it's not only the preservation, rather, I think in a way, it can give you your confidence, your roots where you are. So I think the most important, if you want to explore yourself as an artist, explore yourself as a human, so without a past, without where you are, you cannot move forward. And in that era where these people are dying and we are not getting those stories.
exactly.
So it is so important to know from where we are, and on the same time, just Fazia said, to recreate, because culture is always changing and these stories should be reinterpreted. We can give new meaning to it, but I think at least we should know that.
Or
Yeah,
probably
we
we
need to
can
know
even
the
come up
stories.
with new stories too as well, I
Yes,
think.
yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Without
It
knowing them,
does.
even we don't create our own new stories.
But as ma'am said that that the youth actually needs to know, the kids of Pakistan needs to know, so that's where Amin comes in. So Amin,
kid.
folk ballads, yeah, so folk ballads are a type of things which probably the younger generations are not very interested in listening to. And doing a 40-minute show, a complete show on folk ballads might be a very difficult job. How did it all initiated in the first place? And then where do you think that all of that research and then because the host actually has to be on a lighter note too as well. So how did you balance it all? Because it gets
It's a serious topic,
Yeah.
and it's important.
I won't say it's a serious topic. I think it involves a lot of fun, and we all grew up listening to stories like these stories like Amir Hamza or Heer Ranjha. These are very common ballads, and even the Arabian Nights, which has 1,000 stories, 100 nights. Those stories are they are deeply rooted in our culture. We grew up listening to those stories, and I don't think it's boring. Do you think, Dr. Fazia?
Well, that's not what we said. We said it's more serious.
Yeah.
It's not
But you,
serious
you have
at
social
all.
media.
Actually, the whole point of telling a folk ballad or a story. Do you remember your grandmother telling you a bedtime story? So the whole point of telling a story is to give out messages.
But we used to have separate rooms. So I don't know.
But I think in a way it is not necessarily that you should package those stories the way it was.
Yeah, okay.
So with the social media where you don't have the time span of the 5 minutes more than 3 minutes, rather I think you have seen in Coke Studio where all the previous songs of Noor Jahan and they sing well and people liked it. So I think it's not boring. Rather it is how we present in the modern age.
Okay, wonderful. And that's the thing. This is what this folk beats was all about. Is about bringing it contemporary, putting into contemporary
Context in a
Context,
sense, yeah.
exactly. So when you were doing that, what was the feedback? What was the reaction from people? It's like, oh no, it's so great to have it, or we didn't know about it. Now we know about it. We're going to look. What was the youth feedback for the show?
I got a great feedback from youth and even especially from people abroad. So my friends
Great.
used to call me up, and even foreigners used to call me up and say that we had no idea how rich Pakistani culture was and the diversity and a different ethnic representation that you have in that program. And that program was actually conceptualized by Dr. Fawzia. She started it. And one thing that we have in common is we have a background in anthropology.
Okay,
And
excellent.
we all are, well, I'm training to be a folklorist. She already is. So that's where the interest comes up. And the whole point was to talk about endangered musicians, endangered musical instruments. For example, sarinda is a musical instrument. There is only one sarinda player, and he's the only maker of sarinda player in Pakistan.
Whoa.
So folk beats was different from folk ballads. It was a show focusing only on those people. But and a common theme that we have been focusing on is preservation of intangible heritage of Pakistan.
Okay.
So that's the reason we thought of this project where we are documenting folk ballads, because we realize that most of the people who narrate folk ballads or may have written or thought about folk ballads, it's all a part of oral tradition. So it passes from your grandfather to father and then to the sons or daughters. And people who remember those folk ballads, they are mostly in their 70s or 80s.
Well, I hope they're out there and they're listening to us, because we've got some folk ballads to share too as well.
Yeah, but wait, this is
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
before you ask your question, I want to ask, so let me ask Dr. Fawzia, what is the situation in Pakistan? Ayman has just rightly said that there's one in, sorry, what was the
Sarinda player.
Sarinda player. So that doesn't sound great. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, what's happening? Tell
And
us.
it's not just Sarinda. Even the other day when the other guy was here, where he was playing a flute.
Algoza.
One is
Yeah,
wife, and the
Algoza.
other is husband.
Yeah.
He was the only one too as well after his father.
Very
Yes.
few, yeah. Similarly, Shehnai, there are many chung, many instruments, jodi, that are dying.
Okay.
That is because people are not learning those instruments, and there are just so many options, electronic music, so many options that it is easier for them to go into that rather than spend their whole life learning sarangi. But that is the balancing thing that we have to learn. So in terms of folk ballads, coming back to that, I think that the main stories are dying, and the kind of transformation that Wasim mentioned, that should happen in a living culture. We should have our new stories. That is happening to a very limited extent. And we want to revive that. The situation is a bit grave. Actually, we have a program these days, Saaz Kahani, going on air. So that is also to bring up the. But I would admit, and I would happily state, that the cultural revival we have already sparked off.
Okay.
So it is not that we are on the slippery slope going down. Actually, we are coming up.
Great.
And I think that in the whole of Pakistan, many cultural organizations, cultural experts are really upbeat, and they want to bring back many things in different forms, more palatable to the youth and more relevant to today.
Okay,
Exactly.
absolutely. So, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm going to let you go. I'm going to others keep asking
what
other
I
questions.
wanted to ask from Wasim sir is that you're obviously running an organization which has to do quite a lot with culture. Now, whatever is in our capacity, we can do that, and other than that, we can do a bit of capacity building. For example, we were talking about instruments which are dying, and I think that the sole reason that these instruments are dying because these instruments are still very manual. We haven't actually brought in the technology. For example, nobody has actually heard of an electric sarang. People
you
might
have
be
a-
interested. So, we are not evolving with our instruments. How are we going to do that? Because we need an industry for that.
I think there is the reasons, the political reasons, the socio-political reasons we gone through from last many decades. So that is one of the reasons, because as you know, there was a ban on music and so many other things we have learned. But now the things are changing.
Very
and
better now.
yeah. So anyway, this culture and music, it's all, even if you support and if you patronize and even the state patronize them. So now I think it's a different story, as Fazia mentioned. People are trying to learn it because to my work, when I go to with the interactive theatre and I work with only with the non-actors.
Yeah.
So where I work with those and I find out the folklore and folk stories and songs, which we incorporated into a new kind of theatre where the audience became the part of
Wonderful.
performance. So I think in which they became a very rich environment and scene. But on the same time, I believe even till today, even when I went to South Punjab and I want to sing, there are so many cassettes and music are released every day.
Okay.
So Saraiki music, Sindhi music, and now even Pashtun. So I think people cannot live without music.
Absolutely.
So
Well, I cannot.
Yeah.
so no human can.
Yeah.
So in that way, it is always there.
But you do have a family member who just do not like the sound of music as well.
Okay, well, yeah, that's
Shut it down.
okay. But I want to ask you, so you've been with Interactive, you've worked with, you just mentioned that you're incorporating into the theatre. But as you've gone over the time, do you think that there needs to be more effort made to include our cultural past into it?
I think yes, because in theatre we said when you discover human, you discover theatre.
Yeah.
Because my whole philosophy from Homo sapien to human, this is the only art
Okay.
which can bring you human and you can live like a human, all the values, because the animals can't drawing, they can't sing, and they can do. So this is a human faculty, and if you want to develop a human, you have to develop theatre, art,
Okay.
music. So this is inevitable. There's no separation in it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And since we were talking about theatre over here, so, we have seen theatre evolving too as well. Earlier there was theatre, and theatre played a very major role in Punjab, ladies and gentlemen. Not just in Punjab, almost in, every country, in every nation is being developed upon all those issues which are prevalent within the society. And theatre comes up first things first, and they talk about all of these issues. And we have seen the evolution. Now, Emma, what I want to ask is, how do you think that these folk ballads have actually evolved in today's day and age?
Well, the folk ballads were the mother of theatre, if I'm right, because in traditionally these theatrical groups, they are not nomads, but they are traveling groups. So they travel from one village to another. They live in different places for as long as 1 month. And the story goes on for the entire month, for 2 months, for the entire winter season maybe.
Yeah.
So that was initial theatre. And you must have seen in the movies stories like Ram Leela, people perform story of Ravan or Sita. So those were the initial forms of theatre, and then we started evolving those forms into.
And we have these pictures too as well from
Oh,
Lok Virsa.
wonderful.
So yeah, you can tell us about these pictures too as well. What do they depict? I mean, I think this
these
is
are mostly
From Punjab.
dances and different.
But mostly,
People getting together
Soni
in Punjab.
Mahiwal, you see the earthenware
This is from
pictures.
Lok Virsa.
This is Cholistan. This is Heer Ranja. So these are very, very popular ballads.
Wonderful.
And this tradition is called Tarinjan, where they all make thread with
yes.
their wheels.
I mean, imagine we don't even know about our traditions. That's so sad.
Okay, so now, we're here to talk about, also the preservation of it and the way we're going forward. Now, there's a lot of, you've done a lot of work on it, and, we've been very lucky to have you on the show, and we've spoken about it, and there's books as well, but you've also now, sorry, I've lost my point for a second. Shazad, you're going to have to
It's
take over.
perfectly
I have a
all right,
point.
yeah.
I can actually.
The Smithsonian project that you're doing in
yes.
regards to the preservation of the cultures, because like Shazad mentioned that you know, we know certain bits because, you know, our parents might be Punjabi or they might be from, you know,
Whichever region,
Whichever
yeah,
region. So how do we now start sharing this information?
Well, we started this initiative with Smithsonian, which is a very well respected cultural giant
Yes.
institution in Washington, D.C. And they have many museums. I think everybody, many people, whoever visits USA, they do go to those museums, and are very well respected. They have an extremely advanced and well respected research program.
Okay.
So we started this partnership with them last year because when I was the executive director of Locus, I was very concerned about the condition of the archives.
Yes.
You know, it was like an orphan archives, and I felt like we digitized it and almost the whole thing. And then our next plan was to disseminate it through a website where people could actually search a number, a particular item. You know, we have treasures there. So that process we started with the help of Smithsonian, and the US Embassy also helped us, supported the whole initiative. And we also improved the museum and made it modern, etc., just so that children could get engaged and interact with the museums and stuff. So now we are in the process of documenting ballads in all provinces, and we are going to develop a database which will be available to people. So I see it more as beginning of it. I mean, there are other archives in the country also. It is not just Lokversa's archives. Radio has a wonderful archive, and they have
TV.
loads of television. Yes.
I don't even want to get into that, but yeah.
And especially with folk ballads. I mean, some of the, for example, Alam Lohar and Faiz Baloch's recording in PTV, we don't even have that at Lokversa and some other places. So Radio Pakistan has their archives. Punjab government has a very good archive. So what we want to do is we want to initiate a specialized database on folk ballads, and then we would want people to contribute to that, and you know, make it available on the net, very easy to find, and not really have to go to your grandfather to listen to it, but you can go Google it and on YouTube and stuff. So that is what we are planning to do, and we are trying to document ballads that are not very popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you know, we don't want to invest more time on Sammo's stories or Hiranja. We want to get stories that have not been popularized, and maybe we try and get meaning out of it and do some research and analysis, you know, for future. So I am really excited about that.
That's
Very
amazing.
nice. And before we further move on with our conversation, ladies and gentlemen, we have something to share with you guys. Go ahead, take a listen.
ਮੇਰੇ ਵਾਲਿਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਸ਼ਿਕ ਜੱਟ ਆਲਮ ਲੋਹਾਰ ਤੇ ਅਨੈਤ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਪੱਟੀ 'ਚ ਇਹ ਫਰਕ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਅੱਬਾ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗ੍ਰਫਤ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸਨ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸਨ, ਡਰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਨ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜੱਟ ਜੋ ਸਨ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸਨ ਕਿ ਦਿਲ ਮਾਲ ਦੇਈਏ ਲੱਖ ਕੰਜਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਕਦੀ ਮਹਿਬੂਬ ਨਾ ਥੀਂਦੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੇ ਜਿਨਸਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੌਹਰ ਦੱਸਣ ਜਦ ਉਖਲੀ ਖੱਚ ਛੜੀਂਦੀਆਂ। जिसने अपना अपना दसना है जी होएगी वो जरूर बोलेगी, लेकिन मैं पंजाब की एक वो गल सुना रहा कि जदों धी मापियां दे वेड़े विच एक खिड़े हुए फुल दा ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਾਬਲ ਦੇ ਪੱਖ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਮਲੇ ਦੀ ਛਾਵੇਂ ਪਰਵਾਨ ਚੜਦਾ ਏ।
right, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we were talking about over here. This is what you actually call a folk ballad, and you just gave it to listen to as well. So researching, cataloging, digitalizing, this is something which is happening. But other than that, there's this new project of yours with the name of Othak. What is that? I want to know about it.
Okay. Autark is more of a platform. It's a network that we started a few years ago, and it is doing very well. It is a network for cultural organizations. And the important thing that I want to tell you is that culture never really organized as a constituency. You know, culture, one is culture that we live with.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I mean is cultural institutions, people who love culture, people who are working on culture, experts, and they have never really networked properly. They have not become one voice for Pakistan. So anybody can ban dancing or do anything, and there is a lull, there is no voice.
Yeah.
So we wanted to, the cultural community, that is how I want to put it, and the organizations and experts, to be connected, to kind of feel that solidarity, to know each other's work, to build upon each other's work, to kind of
Voice your concerns.
voice the
Okay, I want
concerns
to
and
talk about
increase
Basant
the
Festival.
magnitude,
Yeah.
my favorite topic also. The magnitude and the impact, because you know our nation has gone through a period where it became very bruised and wounded, and you know, and we are still going through a healing process. And culture has the power to heal. Culture has the power to join.
Absolutely.
And we can gel together with that. So Autark is a network where we connect all the grassroots organizations, crazy people like us, you know, who are working for the culture and promoting music or something, to connect up people who are still playing kabaddi, people who are still, you know, into very traditional crafts, to all connect up and feel like they are a biradri, you know, kind of a larger family. And it has been going well. We have had some meets also, but we want to use the internet, etc., because we don't have money, of course. So it will be a connection, and it is brewing up. Then also the cultural departments in different provinces. I developed excellent relationships, and I felt like they all wanted to be a part of this revival. They all wanted to develop their policies there, and then at international level. So really at all levels, we want to bring them together, organize them like a constituency.
And
Wonderful.
Wasim Sahab, how do you see the outcomes of such platforms?
I think it is a beginning, and I think it was a long way, and it's not a very smooth way. It's a very bumpy road where you can find out. But I think it is also important. There's one point, maybe Fauzi agree with me. All culture is not good. I said culture is sometimes vulture as well, honor killing, and so many of the things coming from the culture as well.
Exactly.
So this kind of platform helps you to purify, to understand
Screen
the positive thing, to move forward, what we need it now. So I think we cannot take culture as a baggage. This is my culture, so I have to take it.
Yeah.
Because equality, human equality, gender equality, maybe it is not that much we have at that time. So sometime I said, one of the
Pruning
very
it,
folk
transforming it.
ballad and Mirza Sahaba, maybe it could be the first honor killing.
Okay.
On the name of honor the kid. So I think I try to reinterpret into one of the play, which I try to do. So I think in a way this is a very, very, it's a whole life into it.
Okay.
So it's not that we are playing culture, other culture is a lot of challenges where we have to see, where we have to meet, where we can learn from each other, and we can move forward with a new interpretation of our culture, which is more relevant. to
And that's
the
a
society.
wonderful point that you've made. Thank you so much for making that. So I want to ask Eamon, you know, because you did the show as well, and because you know you're kind of working on these platforms to especially to engage the younger generation. How do we teach them that, you know, these are maybe, you know, past thoughts, you know, this is the culture, but we've evolved since then. How do we then kind of shape it into suiting them? Like, how do we teach the kids?
You know, when human beings evolve, their culture also evolves.
Yes.
So one thing that's common amongst all of us is the fear of uncertain. And platforms or networks like Otak, they help us understand the beauty of dissimilarities.
Okay.
So for example, I'll confess that I had no information about Hazara community, their beautiful culture, their embroidery, food, and then I learned a lot about different communities in Balochistan, in Punjab or Kashmir. So all these regions are really, they're distant from each other. But the whole point of Otak is to bring everyone together. We have to connect with each other on a human level. And that's what our heritage and culture is about. We have to remain connected. And even if you look at folk ballads or beats or musical instruments, you will find so many similarities. So Rubab is played in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, it's played in Kashmir. Yes, the instrument shape is different, maybe the number of strings is different, but those are the people that these beats connect us together. So that's what I think. I don't think we have to teach the children anything. They're growing up in,
you just have to take them
this
to places where they
environment.
can actually witness all of these things.
Yeah, we
But
have to
other than
provide
that,
platforms
yeah,
for them.
building up on Otak, now what happens is that there are people within our own society, I'm going to second what Wasim Saab actually said, the people hide at the very
Behind,
back of the
yes,
culture.
yes.
And then, you know, they have their own agendas and then they want to
Yes.
malign things, you know, even if they're going in the right direction. So how do we at Otak create a balance amongst all of these people that, you know, no artist is bigger than the other one or the previous one or the kabadder or whoever. So how do we do that?
One point is this, for example, I think there's a certain values you have to develop within the network.
Okay.
Respect to all cultures,
Yeah.
respect to all languages, human rights respect, gender respect. All religion, we are believing we respect all the religions. So these are the 4 core points: respect to all the religions, culture, gender equality, and some of the which I mentioned. So I think this worked for even so many initiatives I did with Marty TV, and we have only four points. We will not go against human rights. So I think that give you a place
Like a
where
framework
a
to
framework where
operate.
you can say if you believe in it, then you can be a part of Otak.
Yeah.
So I think that is not, if you create a framework and from that framework everybody can judge themselves, and you don't need your approval.
No, but Wasim Saab, this is not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to convey over here is that there are people who just do not want other people to work for their betterment. You know, they're like, okay, whatever it is, I'm home, you know, I'm not coming, I'm not doing anything.
I think in our
Because everybody needs to
any
add.
initiative in the world, you cannot have the 100% people into
Exactly.
it. So we don't need that.
Okay.
Okay. So whatever, you know, sit back home.
So I think in a way those who really, Otak is the initiative of, like just Fazil said, like a crazy people who really want to do that.
Exactly.
So I think they maybe they're small in numbers, but their impact is very big. And that's why the Fazil discussing, and we all agreed with her to have that kind of movement where we have a cultural constituency.
Absolutely. And I think it's the passion. I think the passion that you guys have is just enough for for everyone to benefit from it as well.
And there are many more with passion.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. So when you're all on the same platform and
Yes,
network, it'll be
yes,
wonderful
yes.
to actually have that, because this is one thing that we see a lot within Pakistan. Everything's disjointed. There's no unity when it comes to a cause. It's an individual effort all the time. So that's wonderful to hear that. But now going forward, you were doing the Smithsonian. Otak is also another one. What can from all the viewers watching now, what is our role within all of this?
Okay,
The citizens
I
of
think this is
Pakistan.
our role.
Well, this is our role. But what's our role beyond
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
go out outside?
because through this you're doing a lot, and I think that everybody should. I will first talk about parents.
Okay.
I think that a lot of grooming happens there, not necessarily in the schools, especially the way our schools are structured. I think that we need to inculcate respect for your own language, your mother tongue.
Absolutely.
Your own stories, a respect, so that people move forward with respecting their past rather than putting it down.
Absolutely.
And then the pruning of culture, which Wasim also mentioned, I think that also happens at home. So they teach you that no, this honor killing that you're watching is not a part of our culture, and this is a facade, and this needs to be, just like you pull out weeds and you throw them away. These are the weeds that grow up, and then because of benefits and incentives, and you need to throw them out. So cleaning out the values and actually inculcating dignity and respect for who you are.
Exactly.
That is very important. If nothing at all, just teaching them the language will be a big service. So I think that is one role. Second is the respect for performing arts. I think it's high time we speak out.
Exactly.
And banning this and banning that, these are not 1920s or even like 1800s or whatever.
Yeah,
I
let them
can't
do
even
what they
think
want
of.
to do.
So I think that expression is very important, especially cultural expression is extremely important. Folk cultural expression. Let our kids flourish, unfold, learn who they are. So teachers, parents, and then teachers have a role, and educational management. I think they should not stop children from performing theatre, from dancing, from music.
Yeah.
That is I think we would do a big disfavor to our next
Exactly.
generation. So that is a role. And then media. If I talk about media, there is actually no channel that shows dancing.
Well,
It is so
well,
sad.
there are so many other morning shows where people can go and dance.
But that's not the type of dancing we're talking about here. Yeah. The cultural.
So I
and
think
traditional.
that it is shameful. I am not hesitant to use that word. It is shameful. And I think that media should not go Talibanized, should not be Talibanized. And the media should encourage theatre, performances, music, yes, a little bit, a little bit, but not much. So it's news.
Yeah.
And every civilized country has a whole range of channels.
Exactly.
So I think these are roles that they can
If
perform.
Right.
I add only one point into it, even the culture policy, the government, she worked on it, and we have, hopefully we will have at that, because the government can play and regulate and facilitate all those performers, all those groups. So I think one role which I feel we have to add it, the state role, because they are also be part of it.
Absolutely.
If they want a new narrative, if they need a new Pakistan, if they need a peaceful Pakistan, then this culture policy should be there.
Absolutely.
And they should
Exactly.
stop banning
What about
things.
you?
I think the difference will come when we provide spaces for our kids, youngsters, everyone. Every civilized nation, if you look at Europe, other places, people are openly talking about art and culture because they have opportunities. They have. You mentioned at the beginning that we do not have electronic sarangi. We
Yeah.
do have electronic sarangi. It's being taught in Berkeley School. But
Okay.
it's not taught in Pakistan. People do not know
Amazing.
about it because for us, the priorities lie somewhere in medicine or engineering. I went to a medical school for one semester and then I shifted to studying anthropology. But my parents supported me and there was a fight. But the point is that what we are giving to our younger generation and what we are passing on to them. Because as far as I have read about or heard about our tradition and heritage, it talks only about love. It doesn't talk about restrictions. It doesn't even talk about religion. It does talk about value system and very strong customs and ethics, but it doesn't talk about hating anyone.
Absolutely.
So that's what we need to focus on.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Thank
Very
you.
And
well
I
said.
will also add that Aman is now a part of our initiative.
Yes.
So it is former link with Lokvirsa. Currently, she is a part of this initiative and we are documenting folk ballads. We're doing a lot of research and making databases for people on the net
Wonderful.
to disseminate that.
Very
Wonderful.
nice.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure having this discussion and finding what's happening. And best of luck with all the different projects. And we will be supporting you in any capacity that we can. Thank you so much. So I just want to say that, as I'm just going to kind of sum up what our guests have said as well, that, it's important for the government to take initiative as well, whichever government is. It doesn't matter which it is. You are the caretakers of the culture and the heritage. We owe it to the citizens and the future generations. The schools need to also now start thinking broader and they need to incorporate it into their studies. And also this whole language thing, owning your own language. Like I said to you, my French friends, my German friends, when they talk to each other, they talk in their mother tongue. They do not, I sit in Pakistan and people are speaking in English all the time. And, so you need to start having pride in your own language.
Exactly.
And the final thing is that, like Eamon said, that it creates tolerance. Once you know how much difference you have within your own country, then you can't have any prejudices.
और इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि मरीम औरंगजेब साहिबा ने भी काफ़ी अच्छी सर्विसेज दी हैं उन्होंने बहुत सारे आर्टिस्ट को इकट्ठा भी किया है और मुझे अपनी मादरी ज़ुबान में खुदाफिज भी बोलना चाहिए लेकिन फ़िलहाल हम सिर्फ एक और फोक बैलेट सुनना चाहते हैं because we are towards the end of the show so please write to us on our Facebook fan page which is with the name of
Well, this morning.
on Twitter
Well, this morning without a G.
on Dailymotion and YouTube
Well, this morning.
and the repeat's going to be at
11:05 p.m. So we're now going to share folk ballad for all the non-Urdu speakers out there.
let's do it
ਮਾਈ ਬੱਚੀ ਜਿਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਬਾਲ ਜਾਇਆ ਤੇ ਤਾਰੀਖ ਨੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਜੱਗਾ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਉਹ ਜੱਗਾ ਜੰਮਿਆ ਤੇ ਮਿਲਣ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ ਤੇ ਵੱਡਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਡਾਕੇ ਮਾਰਦਾ ਜੱਗਿਆ ਉਹ ਜੱਗਿਆ ਵਿਟੋਰ ਪਰਦੇਸ ਗਇਓ ਭੂਆ ਵੱਜਿਆ अब ये इसमें बोल है कि प्रदेश क्या है क्योंकि जब जग्गा पैदा हुआ ना तो उस वक्त फ्रीडम फाइटर आज़ादी का बहुत बड़ा हीरो था उसका नाम था आज़ाद सिंह
So there's a sentence in this story of what is Pardes. When Jagga was born, there are many freedom fighters. and one very well-known hero was Azad Singh. He made Jagga's mother his sister because she was alone, and he said that this child is small to look at, but his body frame is large. He is young, so give him to me. I will teach him to fight those who are the enemies of our land. So then,
जो हमारी धरती माँ के दुश्मन हैं
जी
तो फिर वो कहते हैं ना आई गुड़ती देन दीवारी आई गुड़ती देन दीवारी आजाद सिंह शेर सदया आजाद सिंह शेर सदया जगया ओ जगया वे टुर परदेस गयो हुआ